Amie, it's Alicia, and I can't believe May is already over. May was a really eventful and emotional month for me. There was just so much going on, and it felt like it went by really quickly, but emotionally I feel really drained, and despite that I still managed to read a good number of books. So I'm proud of myself for that, and it also means that this May wrap-up is going to actually be a little bit more interesting than maybe it would have been if I had just basked in emotional angst for a month. So here are the books that I read and the books that I bought. Now, I did do a haul video for the books that I bought on just one night, May 16th, and I will not be talking about those in this because I think there was like 15 bucks, and I'm not gonna add it to this, but if you're interested, check out that other video. I'll link it below. It's basically just me gushing over like a whole bunch of books, and it's great. But as for the books that I read in May, let's get started. The first book that I finished this month was Above All Things by Tanis Rideout. This book is a historical fiction on the 1924 Everest expedition to reach the summit. It follows two explorers in a third-person perspective, as well as a first-person perspective of one of the explorers' wives back in England. I did do a review for this book. Check it out. I really enjoyed this book, and I get more in depth into why I like it. And just one of the things that I had issues with, but I feel like the issue came more from just the historical context rather than the actual writing, because I find the writing is really beautiful. This is a fantastic book, so check out my review and check out this book. It's great and it's really pretty. I really love the cover. So that's book one. The next book that I read, and it's also one of the books that I bought, was Lullaby for Little Criminals by Heather O'Neill. This book is really popular in Canadian literature. It's noted as one of the best. So I thought I'd pick it up. I picked it up at a used bookstore, which I'll talk about later with the books that I bought. But I decided that why not pick it up, and it just, I didn't really like it. I was expecting to like it, and it just really fell flat. The book is about a young girl. I think it takes place maybe over 2 years of her life, and just kind of her life getting by in, you know, not a great place in Montreal, and with no money, and just what she has to go through. I understand that that's a terrible summary, but I'm really scared of spoiling anything in case you want to read it by going into more depth. So it was a really interesting concept to me. I really wanted to read it, but I just felt really disconnected from it. I didn't feel like there was any actual character to the main character. I didn't emotionally connect with her or anything around her. I felt it was all very shallow in its depiction of this really shitty circumstance. And I just felt like it was kind of like the author laid out all of the terrible things that people from low-income households and like children in those situations go through, and then just kind of tick them off as she wrote about them without really exploring any of them or exploring the effect that it would actually have. And if effect of a terrible situation was mentioned, it was really brief. And I know it could be argued that because it is in the little girl's perspective, that maybe, you know, she just didn't have the emotional capacity to deal with it, but the similes and in this book are just so actually beautiful. I really like those. I mean, they're really odd and different, and I think that if you're gonna write in a child's perspective and say that her emotional capabilities cannot match what she's going through, then you also can't add in these similes and expect her to think that way. I just don't think that that's probable. So anyway, I was really, really disappointed by this book. That's all I have to say on this one. May 13th, Savvy Reader hosted a readathon, and I was all too excited to take part in it. I even made a TBR video where I had really high expectations for myself. Now, obviously, I didn't finish all the books that I wanted to, but I think I did pretty well for myself being a slow reader over that Saturday. So the first book that I picked up for that was Kay's Lucky Coin Variety by Anne Y.K. Choi. First of all, I'm gonna say that I'm slightly biased because I love Anne Y.K. Choi as a person. I met her May 16th, and she is just an all-around beautiful person. And I'm gonna meet her again for coffee next week where she's gonna sign my book, and I'm really excited for that. But for this discussion of the book, I really want to take away my bias towards the author and just talk about the book. The back describes this book as a young Korean girl being caught between the love of her teacher and her parents wanting her to marry this young Korean boy. So I was thinking, you know, this is gonna be a super light contemporary YA book, and I'm just gonna be able to fly through it and perfect for the readathon. But the back totally lies, and so does the cover. This book has so much more going on in it than just a teenage girl who is crushing on her teacher. And I'm just I was shocked by constantly all the things that kept coming up that I was not expecting from this book. It took me maybe about like 10-20 pages to get into, and I think mainly because I was shocked by just what was going on. I wasn't prepared for it. It talks about a prostitute in the first couple pages, and I was like, well, this is not at all what I was expecting. It was a really good book, and I really enjoyed all of the things that were going on in it. It did address racism and rape and sexual culture and just the struggles of being an immigrant family in Canada or just North America in general. And I think that that's really important, and there's so many potent and important facts going on in this book that I really wish it wasn't like sold and marketed as this light little contemporary YA. Even the cover makes it look like it's just something that, I don't know, you can cuddle with your cats and just read about a young girl just being so in love with her teacher, and that's what I was expecting. And I mean, I'm kind of happy it's not, because I'm kind of over this gooey student love teacher trope that seems to be coming up a lot in literature. And honestly, I find that the crush that this girl has on her teacher isn't even that prominent that it's just another thing in the book. So I would check this out. I kind of wish it wasn't a YA though. I wanted there to be more of an exploration of some of the things that were mentioned. She did discuss and explore them, but I think that she could have gone deeper in a adult novel as opposed to a YA. So that's my main critique of this book. I mean, other than the cover and the back description of it, I really wish it was adult just so I could kind of read more about what this girl was going through that sometimes gets cut from a YA novel. So the second book that I read for my readathon that I didn't get finished, but I did get half of it done on the Saturday, was Illuminae by Amie, Kaufman, and Kristoff. This book has been all over BookTube, mainly for the way that it looks, done in memos and IMs, and that was, I'll be honest, the main reason why I went and bought this book. This is one of the purchases for this month as well, which no regrets over. So this book follows two teenagers after their home planet is destroyed, and they are picked up by some ships that come to their aid, and it just kind of follows post leaving their planet, everything that happens on the ship. So it's really interesting. I don't want to explain more because just like some of the other books, I feel like explaining more would spoil it, and I really try not to. But it was a really, really good book. I really, really enjoyed it. I thought that due to the way that it was written, although one of the reasons why I bought it, would be really hard to create in-depth characters that you would emotionally connect with, as well as interesting settings. But I was more than happy to be proven wrong in that. I felt very strongly for these characters and could really feel myself in the setting. And it was done really well, and I loved it so much. Although there was one major point in this book that I hated, and if the rest of the book was not done so well, I probably would have written this entire book off, because this point just turned me off so badly. Now, I can't tell you because it would be a major spoiler, but if you're curious, maybe you read this book and there's something that you didn't like either, or maybe you just loved it to all end and you don't know what I'm talking about, you can email me and I'll leave my email below and I'll let you know, or if you just want to talk about this or any of the other books, obviously. But this was a great book, and I'm really excited to read the second one, but the second one's only out in hardcover, and it's really expensive, and I'm kind of hesitant about spending that much money on one book right now, but we'll see what happens, because I really want to know the rest of the story. So that's Illuminae, and you should read it. The fourth book of May, which I said I was going to read in my Savvy Readathon TBR video, but obviously did not get to it, was The Green Mile by Stephen King. This is also a book that I bought this month. It was like $10, and I thought, why not? I've heard great things about The Green Mile, and I wanted to read it. If you have not read the book or you haven't seen the movie, this book takes place in a prison on death row. It's in the perspective of the supervisor of death row, and they have a very interesting man that comes to join them. It really does try and give like a compassionate side to these men that are on death row for terrible crimes. I have heard fantastic things about The Green Mile, and I haven't read Stephen King a lot. I read Under the Dome mostly. I stopped reading it. I was reading it on a boat on vacation, and I felt like it was the perfect book for that, but once we got off the boat and went back to normal lives, it wasn't the same. So I picked up this one, and I was really bored during this book. I don't know, I just didn't connect with it. And because this book is written by the main character is older, and he's in a nursing home, and he's reflecting on his time on death row. So everything is mainly in the past. So there's a lot of like, and he would never pick up the baton again, and he would never do this again. And so by the time you knew what was coming, you weren't surprised through anything that happened. And that was really, it just kind of took away any sort of suspense, at least for me. I feel like maybe that would be a great thing for some people, but for me, I was like, okay, well, great. I know what's gonna happen. So it just kind of lost it. And I was really bored, and I was really struggling to get through it. And I usually abandon novels that I don't like, but I was determined not to do it for this one. But I was really bored. I think I'm just not a Stephen King person. I respect Stephen King A lot of people who are not readers will rush out to buy his books, and there's nothing, like, he's a good writer. It's not like some pop writers where it's like you write shitty books. His books don't speak to me, but I respect what he does, and that's all I have to say for this. The last full book that I read in May was Son of a Trickster by Eden Robinson. The character of the trickster in Aboriginal culture, I mean, it varies from tribe to tribe, but overall it is a character, always male, who thrives on chaos. Just, the trickster loves to spread confusion, and sometimes he is a villain, and yet sometimes he can also be the hero of a story. Again, that changes from story to story. They are shapeshifters, commonly taking the form of a raven, such as in this book, or a coyote. Those are the ones that I mostly have come across in literature and storytelling. The trickster is a deceiver. Think Loki, if you're more in the know of Norse mythology. He's kind of the Loki of the bunch. That's mainly what I was expecting for this book, and I think it was kind of in there, but not as much as I had wanted. This book takes a long time to set the stage. This book is about a young boy who lives with his mother, and it's just, the majority of the book is his life, his relationship with his mother, his relationship with people his own age, but very little of it actually focuses on the trickster element at all. So I was really enjoying it. I actually did really enjoy this book. Like a few of the other books that I talked about, I really wish it had gone more in depth. I felt like there was so much more to be explored. But it didn't, and that's fine. But I was really enjoying it. But then when it hit the climax was suddenly where, like, all of this stuff, like, first of all, the flap gives away, like, I find a crucial point in the book, which you don't hit until 3/4 of the way through. The Simon & Schuster Twitter, like, it gave away this massive point, which I had just gotten to almost at the end. And I was like, why are you giving this away? And it's, I guess I understand, because so much of it is about this kid's life in the beginning, but then they're just giving away the entire ending. Like, come on, seriously? There's gotta be a better way to go about this. But anyway, that was done terribly, but the climax and what the front cover talked about and the Simon & Schuster Twitter talked about all happened so quickly. I felt that it just flew through and was done, and it was kind of disappointing. I was like, we just did this whole big lead up, and then it was over in no time. I think maybe it was like 50 pages max. I don't even think it was that. It was over too quickly for me. So, I mean, I did kind of enjoy this book. It did hook me. I was interested in the character, but I feel like there should have been not only more maybe character analysis, but just story, and in general, like, the climax that's being led up to, like, maybe there should have just been more. So it left me wanting. So those are the books that I read, and now on to the books that I bought. I haven't bought many this month. I was really trying to cut down on my spending. I did buy Illuminae and The Green Mile, but other than that, I've tried to cut it down. So in the beginning of the month, I went to a used bookstore where I also bought Lullaby for Little Criminals. I love this bookstore. It's not far from me. It's got so many books. There's like shelves that are 3 stacks of books deep. You really have to dig, and it's really an adventure. And I really like it. And I don't mind used books. They're cheaper, and there's nothing wrong with reading a book that's already been read. It's it's just as good. But I also picked up A Complicated Kindness by Miriam Taves. This is another very big Canadian book. A lot of people talk about it and I have yet to read it. So I'm very excited about reading this one. It'll maybe be soon. God, I have so many books to read. And I can't decide which one I'm gonna read next. So I do want to read this one soon though. So book one of the buying. And now there's just one more to talk about. See, I know I really didn't buy enough, but that's okay. The other book that I bought was The Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. I really was planning on finishing this one. I am so close to being finished. I'm not sure if you can see my bookmark in there. I'm so close to being finished, but I didn't get it done. So I'm not making any comments about this because I really want to finish it. I've heard of Robin Hobb all over BookTube, and I really wanted to read a fantasy, which is kind of what drove me into reading this particular book. I wanted to start with her Farseer trilogy because that's the first. The second trilogy, whose name I forget, is kind of the one that most people say is their favorite, but again, I had to start from the beginning. But I'm really, really enjoying this one, and I'll have more to talk about soon. So that's all for May. That's all of the books that I've read, and the not many that I've bought. Anyway, I hope you had just as a reading successful month as I did, although I really hope you didn't have as many emotional breakdowns as I did. That would be awful, but thank you so much for watching. Like this video, comment, subscribe, just let me know what's up with you. I love talking about books. I love hearing about what other people are reading. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Literary Hermit, which will also be linked below. I'm also going to add my email address, so let's talk about books. You want to talk more in depth, you don't want it in the comment section, it's cool. Send me an email. That's all for now. Have a fantastic June, and I will talk to you later. Bye!